Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the oldest profession in the world. But we're going to have to tiptoe around it because of YouTube's community guidelines. We don't want to get flagged and demonetized because then you won't ever see this video. You won't be able to enjoy the story because it is an interesting story that we're going to be talking about. It's happening right now. So the oldest profession probably in the world has to do with like ladies of the night. The same profession that Mary Magdalene had when she had her feet washed by Jesus Christ back in the day when the Romans were the lead guys on the planet, right? So the war in Ukraine has been savage and has ravaged the minds of countless, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of men. And apparently, as a result of this situation, there's been a major industry that's been able to monetize off of it by sending their workers to the front lines in order to service the soldiers, if you get what I'm saying. Making sure that their fluids are topped off, changing their oil, helping them unburden themselves. Apparently, some of these women are raking in around 13,000 pounds per week. How much is 13,000 pounds? Oh, wow, it's dropped a lot. So 13,000 pounds is $16,382.60. Wow, it's dropped a lot. I remember in 2003 when the pound was almost twice what a dollar was. So when I went to England in 2003 on a student ambassador trip, it broke the bank because like everything that you bought was so expensive. That's wild. That's wild to see. Anyway, yeah, there's a major industry that's been benefiting financially off of this, and it's the, I guess you'll call it, service workers industry. Like I said, some of these women who relocate to the front lines in order to service the troops say that they've been earning up to 13,000 pounds a week working in or close to the dangers of war. Apparently, a lot of the Russian soldiers are ready and willing to spend their entire salary in compensation for these services because a lot of them are rationalizing that, look, I could die at any moment. I may not be here tomorrow, so I would like to have one good evening. Apparently, some of this has even been happening in trenches while bullets, shells, and drones are flying overhead. That's pretty crazy to think about. That's nuts. I mean, I guess if you've been in that situation for a long period of time, I don't know how you could get aroused in a moment where you could potentially die any second, especially with like bullets flying overhead, shells blowing up, and drones flying around. Like, that's crazy. I do think that most of the activity is probably taking place outside of the trenches where the women probably aren't feeling like they're in quite so much danger, which makes more sense, like in some of the military camps that are like immediately behind the front lines. And apparently some of the corrupt officers or corrupt commanders take bribes from these service worker rings in order to allow this stuff to happen on the front lines because they're trying to keep the morale up. Apparently, it's also become widely available in Luhansk, Donetsk, and other areas that have been annexed by Russia or taken from Ukraine by Russia aggressively during this illegal war. But so this is the most interesting thing. Most of these ladies have said that every second service that is asked of them is just to have like conversations, like one-on-one talks, like a therapist with the soldiers, because they're all clearly struggling with trauma, regret, exhaustion, post-traumatic stress, shell shock, whatever you want to call it. Like they're all maybe CTE, nightmares, night terrors. All these guys are basically asking for what essentially amounts to psychiatry from ladies of the night, which the service costs around $130 an hour apparently, or 130 pounds an hour, which is $163 an hour. Bro, that's twice as much as what some nurses make who go through a full like college education here in America. That's crazy. So yeah, basically these women are not only providing these services, but they are providing emotional and psychological comforts and support to a lot of these military police officers, troops that are on the front line, and anybody else that's out there fighting. Apparently, some of the military police that are with the Russian military have been caught extorting the soldiers that get caught with these women, demanding bribes or sending them on assault missions that would be considered like a death wish, like a mission where everyone knows everyone's gonna die. Apparently, this industry has been flourishing. Some of the soldiers are blowing their 26,000 pound payments within weeks for visits from these ladies. Within weeks, 26,000 pounds, which let's see, how much is 26,000 pounds? So that's $32,765.20. I don't know if that's like their annual salary or what, but that's like next to nothing, dude. And for what? Man, it's just like, that's crazy. You're dying for poverty wages. This is why people always say that poor people always fight rich men's wars. Anyway, like I said, a lot of these service workers talk about how a lot of the troops just want to sit down and talk because they're dealing with so much like psychological trauma after the things that they've seen and experienced while they're on the front lines in the battlefield. One specific one said that the fighters don't see anything except men and corpses. Obviously, like if they have the opportunity to talk to a lady, you know, even if they're not receiving any type of services, it's still nice to have somebody to talk to that's not just a dude or a corpse. What are you doing? Apparently, according to some that have been interviewed, they say, one time my friend and I sat there for 8 hours, drank, talked, and there were no services, but they still paid. Another lady said almost all of their stories are about comrades that they didn't save, but could have, didn't bandage them, didn't crawl up to them. Like, what will I tell his mother? What will I tell his girlfriend? I still keep quiet and I don't tell them. Now, a lot of these guys are married. You have to keep that in mind. Some of these guys have rationalized this choice to do this stuff, saying that they have a wife, but they don't consider it cheating because I could be killed in combat and I won't have time to enjoy it in the future. That's what some of them have said. Another one of these service workers explained that 90% of her clients have some kind of feeling of regret and that the troops went for the money and didn't think they would have to do the dirty work. Apparently, some of these service workers are even saying that a lot of the troops were not ready for the fact that people were really going to be losing their lives all around them and that they expected something different, not actually wanting to fight, not actually wanting to take lives. And now they have nightmares about it and are extremely torn up about it. Apparently, some of these ladies are saying that they can't go out there to listen to these stories unless they have something to drink because it's just so horrific. It's just so unbelievably terrifying. Venturing into the trenches with Russian soldiers has been described as the most dangerous service work, with many cheaper workers going there for a couple of days and receiving 50 clients within that time. That's unbelievable. Oh, you know, man, those guys are probably so gross from like being on the front with like in the trenches. Oh, gross. That's not sanitary. Apparently, there are large numbers of ladies that are leaving other cities in Russia to meet on the front lines because there's a lot of money involved and they can make that quick cash, a lot more cash than they would in the cities that they're working in because the demand is extremely high and these guys are ready to spend their money. Either way, that is a dirty job. And while it may still be the world's oldest profession, that is probably one of the most dangerous things you can do. Like going to the trenches. Like, can you imagine? Like, what a terrifying choice to do. I can't imagine why anybody, I mean, first off, you got to be in a hopeless place to pick this profession in the first place, like right out the gate. Second off, you've got to be in a very dire circumstance kind of situation to find yourself in this profession, and then also finding yourself relocating to a war zone to provide services to troops there. That is just crazy, man. It's a crazy time we live in. I mean, again, it's the oldest profession for a reason. I'm sure that a lot of these guys don't have anybody to talk to. They probably don't talk to each other that much about it because a lot of these guys are conscripts. They didn't like grow up with these dudes. They didn't grow up with their platoon, or they didn't like serve with all these guys for multiple years before getting to the front line. Some of them just get there right out the gate after being conscripted and they don't have that much training. And then they have to go out there and, you know, survive. It's just, the whole thing's crazy, man. It's very different from the way that the United States military operates, obviously, like 100%. They kind of like dictate what they do and they have a different moral standards. They have a different code of ethics than Americans do. And they have just a different standard of morals and a different standard of values than we do. Now, that doesn't mean that US troops haven't been guilty of doing that. I mean, you look at Vietnam, we probably had a lot of that happening over there, you know? I don't know if the same has been happening for Ukraine or not, but probably. Whenever there's a conflict like this, there are people that are finding ways to make money off of it across all spectrums. Because if there's a way to monetize something, people are gonna find a way to do it. And unfortunately, this just happens to be one of those ways. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Definitely a weird story, not the typical kind of story I do, but let me know what you thought about this video in the comments below. If you know anybody that's been involved in this kind of stuff, well, don't tag them or let anybody know, but we'll see you in the next video.